Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. Today is my group coaching check-in. We do this every week and I respond to my clients on the group coaching. I respond to their check-in via this podcast. Perhaps you've listened to some episodes where I've done this previously. And if this is your first time listening and you're wondering what the hell is going on, the check-ins and the wins and the challenges and the questions asked as part of the weekly check-in are going to be are going to be very relatable to you, depending on your goal, whether it be health, whether it be weight loss. There is going to be some very useful information that you're going to gain from listening to this podcast. So do stay tuned. And to my ladies on the group coaching, you are now at the end of week 2. You have been doing a superb job since starting. Communication on our group chat is really great, and we're sharing lots of thoughts and feelings. We're celebrating wins, we're recognizing where challenges are, and I support my clients outside of this podcast recording every day in the group chat. There's not too much chat where we can't keep up. There's just the right amount and everyone's gaining from it, which is really, really positive and makes me very, very happy. Now, in this podcast, I look at where my clients and share with you their wins. I look at where the challenges have been. I share some useful tips in how to overcome challenges and avoid certain challenges repeating themselves when faced like in a similar situation. And then I also answer questions, which again may be relevant to you or things that you've wondered about but not really known who or where to ask them. So I'm going to be answering a few questions. And then we just look at maybe other areas of the week and how things are going. Now, these last few days, I have been supporting the ladies on the group coaching with what I call mindful eating. Now, mindful eating doesn't mean that you're eating and thinking. Mindful eating is where you are focusing on the food that you are eating and you're removing distraction like scrolling on your phone, like working at your desk, looking at your laptop, watching TV, reading a book, whatever it might be. When you eat in a distracted state, it takes your attention away from the food that you're eating. And as a result, what happens when we're distracted and we're eating in a distracted state is that we tend to eat more quickly. And when we eat more quickly, we don't always notice fullness quite as quickly because the hormone that signals fullness can be delayed because we've eaten so quickly. So eating undistracted will slow down your eating. Eating in a mindful state is where I encourage clients to eat more slowly, chew their food, notice the smell of their food, how delicious it looks, the taste of the food, the textures, and to really eat it and gain much greater pleasure and enjoyment from the food that you're eating. And I often compare mindful eating to those times, I often compare eating in a distracted state to when, you know, those regular journeys you might do in your car. And you get in your car, you're kind of on automatic, you arrive at your destination and you don't actually remember the journey. Well, when you're eating in a distracted state, it's very similar to that. You kind of finish the food on your plate, but you don't even remember eating it, or even if you enjoyed it because you were distracted. A bit like how you might be when you're driving to a regular destination. I wouldn't advise it, but it's just a comparison that I want to make. So when you put your attention onto the food that you're eating, it slows down your eating, your appreciation and pleasure from the food, your fullness, and your digestion. Now, if you hear me reference mindful eating through this podcast, it's because my lovely ladies on the group coaching have been applying it already after watching a 10-minute presentation I prepared for them just to introduce the concepts, why and how and what the benefits are. So you may hear me reference it. Now, let's move on to wins. I'm just going to have a cough. Excuse me. Okay, let's talk about wins. So I'm going to start with Robin. She has consistently hit her step target, and she has actually been bang on hitting her steps since we started coaching. And she thinks that the walking that she has increased and is doing more of, combined with the regular meals that she is now eating, no longer skipping meals, and a change in the food quality and the food quantities and types of food she's eating has meant that she's felt more an increased energy, and she feels better as a result. And this is really, really positive. And the other thing I like about Robin's observation is we're not talking about scale weight here. We know the goal is weight loss, but recognizing wins outside of the scale and how you feel is a lot more valuable than just a number on the scale. The numbers on the scale are just one metric. We don't just want to focus on that one metric and ignore all the other methods of progress that I use to measure, whether it be photos and measurements or whether it be the things that you notice about yourself. They are huge, huge wins. And funnily enough, I posted a reel this morning where I talk about all the wins my clients have shared with me in just 2 days of coaching. And all of them are very different, but they're all great celebrations and measures of progress. So don't neglect the wins outside of the scale weight. Now, with the step target, when clients start with me, whether they're group coaching or one-to-one, I look at where they currently are in terms of their steps, their nutrition, all the things that they sort of have to work on through coaching. I always meet clients at their start point because I don't have expectations for anyone to be at the same level or have the same knowledge or the same experience or the same approach. So I meet clients where they're at. And with Robin, her step goal was relative to where she currently was when she started coaching. Now that she's nailed it, and Robin, you may have already noticed, I have increased your step target in the coaching app. So you have a little bit of a higher step count to achieve now going forwards. And remember that your daily step target is an average taken across the week. So we know that some days you may have more time and you may go for longer walks. You may have just been generally more active around your home and your steps may be higher. And then there are some days where you're glued to your desk and perhaps your steps, you've managed a quick walk at lunch, but other than that, your steps are much lower. Now, I would always recommend maintaining a minimum, an absolute lowest minimum of 6,000 just to support day-to-day health. But as an average, your step target can be taken across the week. If you were to add up your steps over the 7 days of the week, divide it by 7, that will give you your average. And never let your steps fall below 7,000 on any one given day. So you have made progress in your activity. And when it comes to weight loss, as well as managing the amount of calories that we're eating, being in a calorie deficit, we also need to manage calorie expenditure and try and increase it because it further benefits and supports your goal of weight loss. Jo has got a workout in this week. Well done, Jo. So Jo has struggled. She's got very long hours in her job, struggling to sort of fit in the time and have the energy to do the workout, but she scheduled one in. She stayed accountable. She got it done. So well done. Now plan your next one, Jo, so you keep up the momentum. And I would recommend repeating the same workout, and then you can notice whether it feels, whether you feel stronger within certain exercises, whether you can do more reps, whether your form is improving, whether your movement quality and form is a really big indicator of progress, as well as repetitions and as well as adding weight, etc. You are also trying to be more mindful when eating. You have a super high step count, which I'm certain is a result of your job as a nanny and chasing after kids all day. To keep up the great work there. Ellie, big progress from you and awareness in recognizing your alcohol consumption and choosing to reduce alcohol and decide when you're going to drink it as opposed to just drinking it from habit. And this is really conducive to your goal. Now, I have no judgment about alcohol. If somebody wants to include alcohol, that's fine. We have to manage it in with your goal and your target. The problem with alcohol is it's not always just the alcohol in itself, it's the impact it has on you the following day. You may have poorer sleep after drinking alcohol. That may impact your energy levels. It may impact your mood, may also impact your food choices. It may reduce your desire to want to get out walking, movement, exercise. And so we have to look at the bigger picture when it comes to alcohol, as well as the calories from alcohol, and it all plays a part. But actively choosing to reduce it is you taking an empowered approach to your health and nutrition and your weight loss goals. So a huge well done. You have also started mindful eating after listening to the educational video, and huge win. I love this, Ellie, and I'm only sorry I didn't see it in time for my reel this morning. When I put it together and I made my reel, was you felt more comfortable in your swimming costume when you took your daughter for her swimming lesson. And I love this. You also noticed you were less bloated. And this is a result of you improving the quality of your nutrition as well as reducing alcohol. So that is a huge, huge win. Another well done. You've also commented that your goal is weight loss. You are steadily coming down on the scales. I have looked at the data. And regardless of the numbers on the scales, you're recognizing other indicators like how you feel in your clothes and your energy levels. And this is another huge win, recognizing the progress outside of just the scales. The scales will, over time, trend down if you are sticking to all your targets, if you are ticking all your boxes, if you're doing all the things that are needed. When I say things, they're your actions that are needed to support your weight loss goal. That they will marry up if you're doing everything as it should be done. Never asking for perfection, just want to keep it consistent. Caroline, you are sticking to your plan of having more protein-based meals and increasing the amount of protein at each meals, which is really going to support your health. As a maturer client, the necessity for protein is even more important. I mean, it's important for everybody, but as you age, and we're all aging, no matter, excuse me, what age you are, including protein is very important. And you want to ideally consume protein throughout the day, i.e., in each of your meals, because protein is the building blocks to repairing your muscle tissue and ideally building it as a result of being combined with resistance training. Muscle equals health. And as you age, from around the age of 30, you start breaking down muscle tissue. And it's very important for your health to maintain as much muscle as you can and ideally build it for even in more health. In an aesthetic benefit, muscle will help you look more toned. That is how you look toned. It is muscle. It's not about dieting down, because if you diet down without building muscle, there'll be nothing to reveal when you lose body fat. You'll just be a smaller version of yourself. You won't look more toned. You won't have more muscle unless you support muscle growth via protein intake and resistance training. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of including that resistance training. You are also more aware of eating in a mindful state, and you notice that at lunch times, when you often eat by yourself, you are scrolling on your phone, and you have now removed your phone. And I really want to hear back from you in our group chat during the week whether you've noticed a difference in the enjoyment of your food and whether you're now slowing down and how that has benefited you. So talk to me about that in our group chat. And a reminder that mindful eating can still be done in a social setting, at a family meal, on meals out, with your partner. You can still mindfully eat. It doesn't mean that you don't talk. Of course, you're going to socialize. Of course, you're going to talk. But when you're eating your food, that's not when you're going to be talking. You can set your cutlery down at regular intervals, participate in the conversation, and then resume your meal, but slowing it down. And I tend to find in social settings, especially when you're in a restaurant and you want to kind of lengthen the time of your meal and the ambience of being in a restaurant environment, you tend to eat a lot slower anyway. But it's just about not rushing through that meal in a social environment, or eating and talking at the same time, which I'm sure we've all been taught not to talk with our mouths full, but you can still apply mindful eating. So don't feel that you can't do that even in a social occasion. It's about setting the cutlery down, taking a breath, appreciating your food, and especially if you haven't cooked it, it's even more reason to appreciate it. And if you're obviously eating in a restaurant, you haven't got to clear up either. So really notice and appreciate that food. You also recognize that you were perhaps piling up food on your plate, which would lead to you eating too much. And now you're reducing the amount on your plate. You're slowing down your eating, which is very positive. And you are now checking in with your level of fullness. It's better to have less on your plate. Assess your fullness. Remember, for weight loss, you're looking for mild fullness, left a little bit wanting, because that's you being in a little bit of a calorie deficit, and then deciding if you want some more rather than having it all on your plate. The other issue with overpiling your plate is often many of us are brought up with the beliefs that we should finish all the food on our plate, be a good girl, eat all your food. And as an adult, sometimes it's hard for some, I've experienced this with some clients, it's very hard for them to let go of those beliefs because they feel it's wasteful. There are starving children in the world, all these things that stay with us from childhood. And I would encourage you to give yourself permission to leave food on your plate and that it isn't wasteful. What is wasteful is eating it when you no longer want it, because you're not a bin and it's wasteful to do that. So this is obviously for everybody, allow yourself to leave food on your plate. Rachel, you've managed to walk every day. You're hitting your 10,000 steps. You've tracked all your food and you went out for 3 meals this week, but you've chosen smarter choices and they align with your health goals, which is really good. And you know what? When you go out for eat, it is absolutely possible to enjoy your meals out and stay mindful of your goal. So it's really great to hear that you've done that. Now, your biggest win, Rachel, for me, is that you went to the gym and had a gym induction. And you've said that it's a real challenge for you because you haven't had the courage to start exercise, doing resistance training in the gym. You recognize you've got very little space in your home to do home workouts, and you've taken the positive and very courageous step of getting into the gym, and having a gym induction is a great way to introduce that to you, the environment to you. And the more you go there, the more relaxed you will feel in that environment. Remember, as part of group coaching, you have access to gym workouts. And if you just remind me, I will add them into your Trainerize, and then you'll be able to follow a workout each time you go into a gym. So a huge well done. Now let's talk about some challenges. Talked about the wins. Let's talk about the challenges. Now, Jo has, since she's been coaching, has seen a steady drop in her scales, but the last few days the scale has increased. And from my experience, a lot of progress is backtracked by the reaction clients have to the scales. They see it go up, they see it fluctuate and think what they're doing is not working. And so they kind of throw the towel in or not really adhere to the diet, because it's not working. Instead of recognizing that actually fluctuations are very normal, and a fluctuation in the scale overnight can't mean a body fat. Doesn't always necessarily equate to body fat increase. There are many reasons why scale weight fluctuates. And the best thing you can do is just to carry on hitting your targets, focusing on your actions, and doing all the things that is needed to support your weight loss goal that you have set up in the coaching app, and what we talk about, obviously, outside of the podcast and outside of the coaching app in our group chat. Focus on what your actions are, and then over time, your scale weight will begin to trend down again. If your scale weight trends up over time, then you're not in a calorie deficit. Something needs to be looked at in greater detail. Now, I did look at your data, Jo, and there are some days that you're not tracking in full. And when you don't track in full, it makes it more difficult for you to manage your calorie intake. I know some of your meals haven't been tracked because you use Gusto and Mindful Chef. Remember that someone may have already set those meals up in MyFitnessPal and tracked them, because anyone can create a meal in MyFitnessPal. So do search for it and you may find it already in there. Or why don't you create it as a recipe in your MyFitnessPal by adding in all the ingredients, the total amount of ingredients, and then you put in the number of portions. And when you add it to your food diary, MyFitnessPal selects one portion size and automatically adds it in. So it's a very, very simple way. You can track it and it will help you stay more accountable to your targets and stay within your calorie range target. Remember to hit your minimum protein each day. You have a 100-gram protein target, which you want to be splitting across your meals. Ideally, as a minimum, you want to be hitting 30 grams of protein in each of your meals. And then that just leaves another 10 grams to come from your snack or additional food, additional protein at other meals. But if you can aim for the minimum 30 in each meal, you'll be in a great place, and then get the rest from a snack. Be aware of the amount of ultra processed foods that you are eating, because as delicious as they may taste, they do lack in nutrients. And whilst you can still include these types of food, you don't want to see them too often in your diet. You want your food sources mainly to be from whole foods, high protein, high fiber from lots of veg, salad, fruit, and keep the ultra processed foods to a minimum. Ultra processed foods, cakes, fast food, sweets, chocolates, those types of foods, keep them to a minimum. Although they may taste delicious, they often don't leave us feeling very full or satisfied. And because they taste so good, they can often lead to one portion never being quite enough. Or you eat it and you're full, but just for a very short time, because they lack nutrients that keep you full for longer. So think about your food choices, increasing those whole foods and reducing the ultra processed foods to a minimum. And then you're off work for a week and you're conscious about, adhering to your nutrition targets whilst you're doing activities with your family. And I would say it is absolutely possible. You can make smarter choices when you go for meals out. You stick to the main principles of thinking about what's my protein, where's my veg, and then you have some carbs and a very small amount of fats. And you will find that fats, if you're eating out, tends to come in the cooking oils or the butter that they're adding to the food that makes it taste so delicious. If you're going on days out, you can prepare picnics or whatever it is, depending where you're going. And just remember that when you're not at work and you're on a break from work or it's a weekend, you still have structure and you can still have a plan. It just looks different from your Monday to Friday. So be open to creating a new plan and a new structure, and think about your meals, what you're doing, where you're going, where you're going to be exercising, when you're going to be exercising, and schedule this in, and you won't have any issues. Now, the lovely Julie is temporarily working in a different location from where she lives. She is working very hard and very long hours. It has impacted her routine, her food choices, and her ability to exercise. Now, sometimes, due to extenuating circumstances, like the situations Julie's in, it's very challenging, because although my advice and recommendations may not always change, the principles remain the same. We also have to be realistic about what you're able to do and not create overwhelm for me to have too high expectation or too many targets that I'm going to place upon you. So Julie did reach out to me during this week, and as a result, I've stripped back all of Julie's targets. We just want to focus on her getting through each day in the best way possible, supporting her health in the very best way that she can. And to do that, we are just focusing on 3 or 4 fundamentals. And those fundamentals are keeping her meals at regular intervals. She's doing very manual, hard work. And having long intervals without food will leave her depleted. She's exerting a lot of energy. Her step count's super high. And when you haven't eaten regularly and your energy levels dip, it then creates the feeling of being overly hungry, needing something instantly, which, if you haven't got anything prepared, usually leads to you making quick, grabbed choices that may not be the choices or the food type that you really want to eat to support your goal. So Julie's just trying to get a bit more organized with her food choices and make sure that she's eating 3 meals a day to avoid getting over hungry and to help regulate her hunger a lot better through the day and with the additional physical work. She's prioritizing protein at each of those meals. She's also noticing her hydration, especially if you're working and you're sweating, you're going to be losing water. So it's very important that your hydration levels are up. And she's also going to be focusing on getting to bed at a reasonable time to get some sufficient sleep. So she wakes up and she feels good the following morning. And they are the only expectations that I have placed on Julie. Now, Julie recognizes that she does want a bit more support, and she's going to very shortly move on to one coaching, which is really a great thing to be able to do within my coaching, because I do have one that after a period of time sometimes move to group. And I also have group clients that may move on to one, and they can interchange between the two. I'm very flexible. And at the end of the day, I always have the interests of my clients at the forefront. And so it's really great that Julie is going to be going on to one in due course. Now, some challenges this week. I've had one of my clients on the group coaching say to me that their challenges are avoiding binge food and not eating the sugary foods. Now, let's just break down this language a little bit. Avoiding, like, food is food, right? Some food, we all have what's known as triggers. Some food, we all have like our favorite foods, right? You know the saying with Pringles, one, you can't stop. When you pop, you just can't stop, or whatever the slogan is, right? Some things, some food types, we all have our favorite foods, whether it's, crisps or chocolate or whatever, it could be anything. So noticing that first of all, you don't binge eat, but you may struggle with binge eating. And we need to look at this situation as a whole. Why we need to make sure that you're set up in the right way to reduce this happening. And the way that you set yourself up is very much what I've been talking about through this podcast and a lot in my coaching and a lot on previous podcasts. And that is those fundamental basics. Eating 3 nutritious meals that are full of high in protein and very high in veg, salad or fruit. Your veg and fruit increase your fiber intake, and your veg, whether it be whatever vegetables it might be, whether it might be salad, whether it might be fruit, depending on the meal type, it needs to take up at least half of your plate. So if you think of your dinner plate, half of that should be filled with vegetables. The other quarter should be filled with protein, at least like a good quarter with protein. And the remainder on your plate is for your carbohydrates and a very, very small amount of fats, which may come from the oil you may have used in your cooking or a dressing or a sauce, etc. So think about how you're loading your plate. Think about your meal timing. Think about regulating your hunger from eating at regular meals. Think about your hydration. And think about doing this not just for one day, but consistently. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as consistent as you possibly can, because it will help your appetite regulate as well. And then you will be less likely to want to eat and snack on those high calorie foods like cakes, biscuits, chocolate, sweets. The other thing that I would recommend with those types of foods is that you only allow yourself to eat them after a meal when you're going to be already quite full, and you sit down and you eat it in a mindful state with your portion put on a plate, and you're sat down and you eat it mindfully without distraction. And allow yourself to do that every day following on from a meal, whatever that food choice might be. You're tracking, make it work within your calories. And remember, you have a calorie range. And even in your upper end of your calorie range, you are still in a deficit. What you want to avoid doing is going over your top calorie range. Now, for you, Joe, I've actually increased your calories because what I want to avoid is that you perceive you go over your previous calorie target, feel like you've ruined things, and then don't track for the rest of the day, potentially. So I would rather give you an extra bit of calories and that you feel that it has a bit more flexibility. And with the new calorie target, I don't see why you can't include all the foods that you want, but only on the proviso that you're hitting your protein target and staying within your calorie range. Now, Robin went out for dinner this week, but has found it difficult to eat less. And what I want to sort of question is, like, why? Because again, have you set yourself up on those days that you're eating out? Think about the circumstances and the lead up to your meal out, and really sort of assess the situation and reflect and write down your thoughts and feelings about your meal out, about, if you feel that you ate more than you should have, perhaps. Get curious and find out why. And you can do that via journaling with yourself, just letting your pen flow and ask yourself some questions about the situation, circumstances, why you think it happened. The other thing that I want to bring your attention to that can often lead to overeating on meals out is, do you kind of save yourself all day because you know you're going out for a meal? Because the issue with that is, if you go out to eat in an overly hungry state, it can often lead to overeating because you've left it so long between a meal, perhaps because you're saving yourself for your meal out, you want to have a good appetite. Is it can often bite you on the bum, because you get to the restaurant, the smell of the food is all enticing, your senses are on full alert, and the ability to make mindful decisions goes out the window because the hunger and the stomach rumbling can take over the logic and the decision making in your brain. And then you end up maybe making choices that you later regret, but they were made in a very hungry state, which is a really difficult and challenging thing to do. So if you are skipping a meal so that you save yourself for your meal out, I would always encourage you to never skip a meal. You can make your meal lighter, keep it protein and veg based. So for example, instead of having a chicken salad sandwich, just have the chicken salad. The protein will keep you full. The salad contains fiber, and it's the process of chewing and eating. And you can fill your plate with that for not many calories. And you've filled in a gap before you go out to eat. You can reduce your carbs. It's just an easy way to save calories. And then you can, be in a bit more of a mindful state when you go out to eat and make the choices that you know are going to serve you better. The other thing that I would also recommend is, are you planning your meals out? If you know where you're going in advance, are you looking at the menu and making informed choices? So if you're going out for a meal, it's always a good idea to have 2 or 3 options that align with your goal, that maybe are smarter choices, and that you would be happy on the night or the day or the lunch or whenever the meal out is, to choose one of those 3 options. So you're still having a choice, but you've reduced decision fatigue by just having the maximum of 3 choices. Also, when you're eating out, is depending on the restaurant you're going to. If it's mainstream, they have calories on menus. It helps you make an informed choice and to also eat smarter if you want to stay and eat in line with your goal. If you consciously choose not to, at least it's a conscious decision. You obviously have to accept the consequences of those decisions, but at least it's done consciously, but with knowledge and with intent, which is better than kind of thinking you're making a good choice, a smarter choice, but actually it's not. And had you just done a little bit more research or looking up of the menu, you would have found out. Now, if the restaurant you're going to is not a mainstream and they don't have calories on menus, there are lots of mainstream restaurants of all different food genres where you can do a like for like. And failing that, you can always go on M&S, and they have every nationality of food. You will probably find something like for like that you can track. Or at least have an idea of what you're playing with in terms of calories. Now, if you're not tracking, you're not really going to be focused so much on calories, but to make your smarter choices, you want to stick to those lean protein choices, avoid the deep fried or the fried. And, like for a Chinese meal, instead of going for like sweet and sour balls or whatever they are, where they're deep fried, you could have something, like that's stir fried. in a black bean sauce or a soy sauce, and they come in at a lot lower calorie than those creamy, rich sauces. Where you have something like rice, you can portion your rice to suit your goal, and you can still have control over your meal choices, your food choices, the quantity of the food, eating slowly, recognizing fullness, even on a meal out, no matter what type of food it is that you are eating. When it comes to starters, so I know you had a shared starters for your table, and often, I'm guessing this is like a Chinese or a Thai, is that you get all these sort of, lovely looking starters. If you're in a situation like that, and there's 4 different things, just choose 2 and think about which one you fancy and which one is smarter as well. And just choose 2 things. Just because there's, there's one of everything for everyone, which means there's 4 things a person, it's irrelevant. You eat to support your goal. You make your choices dependent on your goal. You really do want this goal. So don't be frightened to sort of stand up and make your choice, irrespective of what anyone says, thinks, or whatever. Okay, hopefully that's helped. Somebody has had really busy week, always rushing around. Okay, rushing to make food and not enough time to food prep. Okay, I want to just talk about this because everybody is busy in their own way, right? My day is busy, your day is busy. No matter whether you work, you don't work, no matter what you do, how you fill your day, we are all busy. This is the way we kind of live our lives now. Everyone I speak to is busy. Your busy looks different from my busy. I would never compare my day to your day or anyone's day to anyone's day. But you have to look at your day and you have to plan ahead and you have to think about where you can set some time aside to plan and prepare your week and set your food choices up. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be meal prepping what you might see on the internet or on social media, meal prepping, hundreds of Tupperware tubs. Your meal prep doesn't need to look like that, right? You're not a bodybuilder going into a competition where you're eating out of Tupperware all the time. But meal prep can look really can be really easy in doing simple things. For example, you can prepare and batch cook a meal, like a double your ingredients, make a huge bolognese or whatever your meal choice is. Freeze half, have the rest in the fridge. It will feed the family, give you a leftover portion for your lunch the following day or your dinner the following day, and you've still got a load in the freezer for another meal the following week. It may take time to batch cook that meal, but it saves you time in the long term, and it saves you a lot of time. The other way that you can not batch cook, the other way you can food prepare is not just batch cooking meals, but also think about things like your regular foods. What foods do you eat a lot of that might need preparation? Do you like boiled eggs? Why don't you hard boil 6 eggs at the beginning of the week? And then you've got 6 eggs for you to easily get out the fridge, peel, add them to salads, to sandwiches, to another protein source to bump up the protein. They're already done, they're prepared. I love chicken sausages. I love the Heck chicken sausages or the Aldi Coppers. I cook the whole pack and then I've got them every day to portion out for the whole week. Done. I don't have to cook them every time. You could also think about batch cooking a large tray of roasted vegetables. When you eat veg, it doesn't have to be like boiled broccoli or cabbage or cauliflower. It can be a range of colors and diversity. There are thousands or hundreds of varieties of vegetable. Don't just stick to the same things. If you roast a whole tray of vegetables, you can watch the calories. If your goal is fat loss, you can use 1 calorie spray oil, spray over it, season it up. You can air fry it, oven roast it, whatever. And you can add peppers, red onions, celery, mushrooms, cherry tomatoes, courgettes, butternut squash, whatever you want to add. And then you have that for the whole week. You can add it to salads. You can do whatever you want with it. And it's done, it's cooked, and it's in the fridge. You could also cook a whole bag of baby new potatoes, and then you portion them and you can add them to salads, to dinners, etc. It's done. You don't have to cook potatoes every single time you want a potato. You could also season chicken breast or marinate chicken breast, however your preference is. Put it in a dish, keep it in the fridge, and you can have that and use that chicken in all different ways, whether it be in salads, sandwiches, stir fries, whatever you want to do with it, you've got it cooked. So think a little bit outside the box and recognize that spending time doing these things saves you much more time in the process. In terms of progress, talking of process and progress, feedback from my ladies on the group coaching about progress is that the comments I've had is feeling much better with more energy, which is fantastic. Not much movement on the scales, but I'm feeling so much better. Now, with this client, I have looked into why there's no movement on the scales, because after a couple of weeks, I would start to think there should be something happening. And I have looked into detail and changed some of her coaching methods to be able to get to move that along in terms of her fat loss goal. Another client loves the accountability and she's feeling so much better about what she's eating. Oh, I can see. I just want to expand a little bit more on the client that wasn't getting movement on the scales. I have advised and reset a different approach to this client so that we can make sure she's in a calorie deficit. One of the things that I would also say is that in a couple of weeks of coaching, depending on your start point, there's a lot of foundation building to be doing, because it's not just about eating less and hoping for the best. Like, the science is simple, but it's not easy. And this is where people their expectations, they think dieting is going to be easy. We're human and we have emotions and feelings and pressures and work and kids and life. And they all impact our decisions sometimes, or how we show up for ourselves. So recognize that we're laying the foundations. And when you lay your solid foundations, they will serve you in benefiting your health and your weight loss goal. And then later down the line, when it comes to maintaining your goal and your results and continuing to benefit your health for the rest of your life. So give yourself time to make sure that you're laying that foundation down, making sure you're hitting your protein target, including it in every meal, and adding more veg and eating at regular meal times. Remember, it's not just about eating less. I actually want my clients to eat more, but more of the right type of foods to support health and weight loss goal. And as I've mentioned multiple times, more veg, more lean protein. It makes sense to reduce your carbs and your fats to enable you to increase veg and protein. You can still have carbs, you can still have fats, but just reduce them because it makes sense when it comes to your weight loss goal. I want your plates to be full of food. I don't want little minuscule carrot sticks and a cracker. I want your plate to be full. When you're eating high protein and high fiber, it keeps you full and satiated for a lot longer. You won't snack between meals. You won't need to. You won't have a desire to. It will reduce your snacking as well, and you will feel better for it, and it will benefit your health as well as your goal. Some really simple things that you can think about as well is what I call your smart swaps. If you're having higher fat cuts of meat, switch to leaner versions or leaner meats. If you're having chicken thigh, switch to chicken breast. You'll get more chicken breast for the calorie value, and it's leaner. It makes sense whilst you're working towards a weight loss goal. Does that mean you can never eat a chicken thigh? Of course not. But if you want to reduce your calories, we have to look to make savings from somewhere. And sometimes making these smart swaps are easy ways to make savings, but without reducing food. In actual fact, you can increase. So think about those leaner protein sources. For example, instead of pork sausages, switch to chicken sausages. Where you're having salad dressings, if they're full fat, like full fat mayo or full fat salad cream, switch to reduced fat versions. You cut your calories straight away. And to be honest, once your food's all mixed in, you probably won't notice a difference in the sauce. Salad dressings as well. If you like salad dressings, I've seen Caesar salad appear in some of the food tracking this week. Please remember that salad dressings are often like you're taking a really low calorie meal, like a salad. Caesar salad is lettuce, is cos lettuce, and then you're drowning it in a dressing that has hundreds of calories worth of dressing. So think about moderating that portion size or reducing it to a much reduced fat version. Think about cheese. If you're having full fat cheese, perhaps switch to a reduced fat cheese. If you're using cheese in your cooking or on beet jacket potato, you won't notice if it's a reduced fat. It's not like you're having a cheese in, like a just eating a piece of cheese on its own where you'd really notice the flavor. So it makes sense. And just try to maintain all of these habits, all of the foundations, all of what you're building each day, and they will really give you a great solid foundation from which to build and progress towards your goal. Now, I've had some questions. I just want to look at the time. Oh, we're at 45 minutes. So I'm going to quickly answer these questions. And one of them I'm going to hold over till next week. So one of the questions in the past, I would have given up on my goals if the progress isn't showing fast enough. Do you have any tips on how to maintain focus? Number one, be patient. We are making long-term changes. I want this to be the last diet you ever need to do. Don't rush the process, because when you rush the process, it also comes at a higher cost and impact to the quality of your life and your ability to be social, your ability to enjoy your life whilst you work towards losing body fat. So be patient, because I want this process to be enjoyable and I want it to be long term, a long term success, long term weight loss success. This isn't like a quick fix. Anyone can do a quick fix for a short period of time and then gain it all back again. I don't want that to happen to you this time. I want this to be a long-term thing. So set realistic expectations, be patient, set yourself goals outside of the scales. So use your step target, make sure you're hitting it. Hitting it every day is a goal, and achieving it and feeling accomplished. If you're in the gym, focus on your performance, or even if you're if you're doing home workouts, it doesn't make any difference. Focus on your performance. How are you feeling in your workouts? If you did 10 reps last time, can you do 11 this time? Can you do 12 next time? Is your movement quality improving? These are short-term goals. Enjoy taking care of your health. Enjoy preparing and fueling your body with healthy foods. Notice how great you feel. Celebrate your wins outside of just scale weight. Focus on these mini goals, because having mini goals along the way will keep you focused. They'll keep you feeling accomplished. And when you see progress, that will be enough to keep you motivated to keep going. Recognize all your wins, and most importantly, be driven by your actions. Your actions are all the things that you need to do to achieve your goal. So think about your habit-based targets. Are you consistent with them? Are you ticking them off every day? Are you achieving them? Are you staying within your calorie range? Are you hitting your protein target? Are your steps where you need them to be? Are you exercising? Are you prioritizing time to do the exercise that benefits and supports your goal? So think about those things. That's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you progressing towards your goal. Focus on living your life as well. Don't make weight loss the sole purpose of your day-to-day life. It's a side hustle to living your life. It's an important side hustle, but it's not the main event. Don't make it the main event. There's more to you than losing weight. It's something you're doing alongside enjoying and living your life. And that's how you maintain this over the long term. People ask me, how do you still do your workouts? How do you still be bothered to prepare healthy meals? Because I enjoy the process, because I love feeling my healthiest, best self. And this is what I want you to focus on too. I will save the other question. Sorry, Robin, it's your question. Very good question, but I will save it for next time. And I will also answer it in the group chat. Any other questions, let me know. If you're listening to this podcast and you think, wow, I need some coaching, I need some group coaching, or you're interested in one-to-one, all my contact details are in the show notes. Please get in touch, fill out the application form, follow me on my social media, leave me a 5-star rating on my podcast, follow, share with your friends, share me with your friends, and I look forward to catching up with you on the next one.